Hey everyone, I'm Mike Settele, founder of Settele Tutoring, and in this lesson, I'm going to talk about what it takes to get an 800 on the SAT reading. Let me start by saying, this is a stupid goal, okay? If you are just watching this because it's the end of my series on how to get different scores, great. Hopefully I can show you a couple things to give you a little bit more of a boost, but this is not something that you should realistically be trying to achieve. It is more about luck than anything else. So I'll give you some pointers, but we'll talk about things to memorize, strategies to use, and obviously you know how many wrong you're allowed to get. It's 0, but we will talk about some pacing things that you can do to try to get closer to this. But I will say, if this is just something you're watching because you're already scoring about 750 on the practice test and you just want to see if there's anything else you can do, great. But if you've already taken a real SAT and locked in a 750 or better on that real SAT, stop taking SATs. What are you doing? Trying to get higher and get an 800 is a waste of your time. Colleges do not care whether you get a 760, 770, or an 800. It's all the same to them. You've accomplished your goal. You've won the SAT. Move on to other things in your life. This is a sickness at this point. That said, let's talk about some things to memorize if we're trying to perfect the SAT reading, okay? So at this point, you've probably watched my videos on what it takes to get a 600, a 700, a 750. You gotta memorize all that stuff. Every single grammar rule needs to be memorized confidently. No issues there. All the transition words need to be known. We need to know basically tons of vocabulary words. And so at this point, really all you're doing is trying to build that vocabulary so that there is no word that you would encounter that you wouldn't know. Now, to be clear, this excludes words that are very science-based, right? Things that are specific to the topics in the passage. You don't need to know that stuff. This isn't a science test, and knowing more science is not going to help you. But you do need to know all the words that they use to describe that science. So anything that you encounter as you start studying, if it matters for an answer choice, if it matters for a dumb summary, you've got to make sure you know that word confidently, because if you are guessing on a vocabulary question, you are turning that 800 now into a coin flip, right? If there are 2 answer choices that you don't know the definitions of, that's a 50-50 shot, but that's a coin flip. And so that is what really it does take to get an 800 is you cannot have anything where you are just flipping a coin to see if you get that question right or wrong. Now, with that said, there are some strategies we can use, but things that we need to be aware of. I'm going to kind of contradict myself a bit here. A lot of success on the passage questions comes down to placing smart bets, because for the passages, especially the hard ones, it's not like a hard math question where at the end of all the work, we can get x equals 5 and know that we're right. With a passage question, there's always a little bit of uncertainty about whether or not we missed an important word or fell for a trap answer or misunderstood the passage. So there's lots of opportunities to make mistakes without us kind of knowing it the way we would in math. But a lot of times too, what I'm thinking about as I answer these hard questions is, have I placed a smart bet? Am I looking at an answer choice and thinking about the potential trap answers, the potential strong words that could make a difference? And then ultimately, if I am down to 1 or 2 answers, I'm not picking randomly. I am placing a bet on the choice that I think, from all my experience so far, is more likely to be correct. So you do have to think of it that way, because if you can get to like 80, 85% certainty on one of those hard passage questions, that might be enough. You might still get it wrong, but it's certainly enough where you just need to move on, because you can't run out of time if you're trying to get a high score like an 800. You have to be able to get through every single question and answer it with enough time to actually know what's going on. So yes, you will need to settle for less than 100% confidence on some of these questions. And that also means that at a certain point, yes, in order to get an 800, you have to be lucky. We have to get words that we know. We have to get passages we understand. We have to play smart bets and have all of those bets pay off. So there are things out of your control. And that's why I say, if your goal is an 800, you are a crazy person. This is not something that is about skill or intelligence. At a certain point, it's just about good luck. Have a good night's sleep before then. Make sure you have breakfast in the morning. Those are the things that are going to have a better impact on your score than any more studying at a certain point. So we already know the answer to this question. How many can we get wrong to get an 800? Well, you got to get nothing wrong in the first module, nothing wrong in the second module. Sometimes you can get 1 or 2 questions wrong and still get a perfect score. The reason for that, the main reason, is that, remember, some questions on each module do not count for your score. They are experimental pre-test questions. And so if you happen to get one of those wrong, then it wouldn't count against your score. But you don't know which questions are those experimental ones as you're taking the test. There is no way to figure it out. So you just got to try everything and hope for the best, but maybe you will get lucky. And if you did struggle on a question or you ran out of time on one, that will be the one that won't count. and you'll still be able to get that 800. The most important thing, I think, if you're trying to really push it to this level is you've got to be using all of your time on the places where we're going to need it. That's the hard passages and maybe to a lesser extent, the hard vocabulary questions. So that means the things that are within our control, the things where we can memorize all the vocab, all the transition words and all of the grammar rules, the grammar, the transitions, the outlines, we want to be able to get through those questions in less than 9 minutes. And since grammar starts around number 15, that's about 12 questions. So we're doing less than a minute per question. So if you can get less than 9 minutes, that's even better. But you need to not only be getting through these fast, but you need to be getting all of them right. You can't get any wrong. And so yes, there are trade-offs between accuracy and speed. So you've got to be able to be as fast as you can without losing any step for your accuracy. This is hard to do, but I also think this is an important step on the way to a 750. So hopefully you're already pretty much there when it comes to the grammar, transitions, and outlines. Then you can use all the time you need for the passages because that's where we're going to need the time. Hopefully this gave you some things to think about. If you have questions, please put them in the comments. I don't really have much more to say. Again, if you're getting a 750, you already know everything you really need to know for an 800. It's just about being perfect, which is hard to do. If you are really curious about trying to get as close to 800 as possible, my advice is go to my channel and look at my playlist on the SAT practice test walkthroughs. These are not the ones where I do individual explanations of every question. I have videos for at least tests 4, 5, and 6 where I go through the test for the first time. And you can see, in most cases, I got an 800. I got everything right. But in other cases, sometimes I ran out of time and had to guess or maybe got a question wrong. So you will see how hard it is to do. But hopefully you can copy some of the things that I'm doing, get a sense of my pacing and my strategies, and maybe that can give you some very subtle things to think about to get you over the line and maybe get close to that 800. And of course, if you get there, come back to this video and brag about it. That's an amazing achievement. So don't go crazy over it. But if you get it, job well done. Once again, I'm Mike Settele, founder of Settele Tutoring. And remember, when it comes to your scores, don't settle for less, Settele for more. Thanks for watching.